Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got my favorite basketball shoes for every foot type, game style, or ailment you might be bringing to the basketball court. And heads up, if you want a quick side-by-side comparison of all the shoes I've reviewed this year, like their heel height, heel to toe drop, weights, jump height scores, just all the tests that I do on this channel, I do have that as a digital download down below in the comments and description for purchase. It is a good companion guide to this video, and if you're just looking to side-by-side compare shop of shoes, it's what I use to make all these videos. That's down below. So with that out of the way, let's get started with the first category, and that is foot type. Now, if you're a wide width foot, you can go with a shoe that just comes in widths, like some New Balance, not all, or a shoe that just comes a little bit wider built. Something like the Adidas Trae Young 1 that just kind of comes standard in a 2E width and its true size, or something like anything in the Nike EP family or XDR family, which comes on a wider last. But if you have a very narrow foot, you also don't want to be flopping around in the shoe, so you want something that has a great lockdown or that just comes in a narrow width. Something like the Curry Flow 9 or Curry Flow 10, or even something like the Nike Kyrie Infinity or Kyrie 8, something that either can lock you in really well or something that just comes naturally narrow lasted. And if you're just a standard, medium, or true width person, then really you don't really have to worry about anything except on the extreme. So don't go for a 4E New Balance, and don't go down one size on the Curry Flow 9. You just kind of want to stay in the middle in your true size. Just watch out for the super wide or the super narrow. But in terms of your arch height, there are a few things you got to watch out for. If you are a high arch player, remember you want something with either a lot of bulk in the forefoot or, in Nike's case, air in the forefoot. So something like the Zion 2, which even just now has Zoom Air in the forefoot, still going to be a lot more forgiving than something with just really narrow foam. But on the opposite end of that, if you're someone with a flat foot, you want something with more of a stout arch. So something like also the Zion 2, which has a really stiff, nice arch support in it, or anything maybe with carbon fiber there, something a little bit more of a stiff setup in the mid part of the shoe or the central or arch part that is not going to allow your arch to bottom through the shoe. You also want to make sure that the uppers of that shoe aren't so flimsy that your foot's just going to collapse to the uppers and it doesn't really matter what's in the midsole. And like I've said so many times, remember, a lot of times a shoe that's good for a high arch is also good for shoes for a flat arch because the companies are putting elements of both of those into there. So just because one shows up in both categories doesn't mean it's not good for both feet. Speaking of all these different combinations of foot types, remember there are certain shoes that accept orthotics better than others, like the Adidas Daymade or New Balance Kawhi 2, for example. And speaking of the orthotic you'd be putting into your shoe, that brings me to today's sponsor, which is PowerStep. And as I've said in countless videos, well before PowerStep ever sponsored one of mine, the PowerStep Pinnacle has been my favorite orthotic by far for athletes with current foot pain or pre-existing foot pain. Anything from arch pain, heel pain, or even ball of foot pain. These have the best contouring arch I've ever seen. They are better than some custom orthotics that I've seen being made. The way the heel cup is set up going into that really broad arch just gives maximum contact to the foot and can even improve performance over the long-term use of the orthotic. So if you are looking for an orthotic having existing foot pain or just want one that has the ultimate arch contour and contact, I just can't recommend PowerStep Pinnacle enough. And if you do want to grab one, I do have links in the description below. But now let's get started with number 2, game style. The way you play basketball or the position you play has a huge influence on what shoes you should buy. Because if you're someone that's a large center, power forward, playing in the paint a ton, getting your toes trampled on constantly, or just having to use those plantar foot muscles over and over and over going for rebounds, well, you're not going to want a super minimalist shoe. You're going to want something a little more protective on your foot, like the Nike KD 15, the Jordan Zion 2, or the New Balance Kawhi 2, not something in that uber minimalist kind of more shifty footwork category. And speaking of somebody with really shifty, fast, quick footwork, or a shooting guard, perimeter type player, or wing type player, well then yeah, you're going to want a shoe that allows a little more creativity, something like the Curry Flow 10, something that can just give you a little bit more flexibility in your foot, allow you to make that one extra move on your opponent. But if you're someone that plays pretty much any position and just wants a little more bounce out of their shoe, or just the bounciest shoe you can find, or like me, maybe needs a little bit of jump height over somebody else, then you want something with a lot of pop and bounce in it. Something like the Puma TRC Blaze Court, or a shoe like the Way of Wade 10 or Anta KT8, something with a little more of a stiff midsole setup, something that gives you a little more of that diving board effect. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you want a shoe for more ground feel, balance, and control, you're going to want something with more of a flat bottom shoe, like the Nike LeBron 20, the Puma MB1 or 2, or anything with more of that continuous tread pattern on the bottom that allows you to get a little bit more bounce balance and just a little bit more side-to-side stability. And if you're someone whose primary concern is speed, then you want something with more straight line speed, like something like the Nike Zoom Freak 4, or even the New Balance CG1 tennis shoe that's really good for outdoor basketball speed, or even the Anta KT8, Way of Wade 10, anything that's gonna give you that real good launch that's going down the straights. And if you're someone that's playing majority outdoor asphalt or concrete, needs something that's gonna stand up to that, something like the New Balance Kauai 2, Adidas Harden Volume 6, really anything in the Nike XDR family, just something that's gonna give you number one, durability in the outsole, but more importantly, durability in the midsole to protect all those joints. But if you need a shoe to complement an indoor hardwood court, you're gonna want something more with gripping power. Number two, something that can handle the softer surface of an indoor hardwood court. Something like the Jordan 37. I know those shoes have gotten panned a little bit on YouTube. However, I found they are a tremendous indoor shoe. Or something like the Nike PG6, Way of Wade 10, or even the Jordan Luka 1. And if you're splitting your time indoor and outdoor, you want a shoe that's gonna be able to handle both durability on the outside and good grip on the inside. Something like, again, the New Balance Kauai 2, or even something like the Nike KD15 in its XDR version, or even my personal favorite tweener in there is the Adidas Daymate or Way of Wade 10. And if you're someone who likes to play outdoor basketball with a tennis shoe for a little more durability and stability on the ground, honestly, the offerings have gotten a little more slim this year. However, my favorites by far, New Balance CG1 and K-Swiss Ultrashot 3. All right, number three, injuries, body type, and chronic conditions. Now, if you're somebody with pain around that whole heel complex region, like plantar fasciitis, bursitis, Achilles tendinitis, you're gonna want something, number one, either with multiple density foam, a stiffer heel counter, or just something that can contain that heel in the shoe a little bit more forgiveness. Something like, once again, the Adidas Daymate, Nike KD15, Way of Wade 10, really anything that's gonna give you a little more forgiveness in the back part of that heel. And if you're someone that's a chronic ankle sprainer, you need something with really good lateral containment. Something like, once again, the Nike KD15, Way of Wade 10, any of those shoes that give really tremendous lateral stability. Now remember, mid tops and high tops do not prevent ankle sprains. Something like the Nike LeBron 20, because its flange is so aggressive, is also a great option if you want something with more of a low top, more minimal upper around your ankle. But opposite to that, if you're somebody with more painful tendinitis in your arch muscles or just painful arch strain or just painful flat foot, like I said, you want something with more containment on the inside of the shoe. So a lot of the same offerings, anything that has more containment on the inside of the shoe, a little more bulky uppers on the inside of the shoe, and a stiffer shank. And if you're somebody with dreaded ball of foot pain, no, it's not just you. It is super hard to heal and it gets really annoying, yes I know, but you want something with a lot of forgiveness in the forefoot. So really anything with Boost, anything with Zoom or Air Max in the forefoot is going to give a ton of forgiveness in that forefoot. And as I've talked about in previous Ultimate Shoe Guide videos, if you're somebody with shin splints, really a lot of the shoes that are good for painful tendinitis and overpronation are good for shin splints. Anything with multiple density foam and a really supportive shank is going to stop a lot of that shock in the shoe and stop a lot of that torsional movement. So just watch out for that. And if you're somebody that suffers from arthritis in the knee, hip, or back, just need more support and more shock absorption, really same thing. Anything in that shin splint category, anything in the overpronation category or heel pain category is going to do the same thing up the chain. And remember, you have to take your own weight into consideration because you are a super lightweight player. You really don't want to be lugging around something super heavy and vice versa. If you are a very heavy player, you do need something that's going to match the bulk of your body in the foot, or else you're just going to pummel right through that shoe. So just remember, take that into consideration when you're buying a shoe over the long run of that shoe. Remember, every shoe is going to feel good when you first take them out, but only the ones that match up with your body profile will keep playing well and feeling good over the lifetime of the shoe. But remember, the most important factor in all this kind of lurking under the surface is finding a shoe that matches your particular size and shape foot the best. So if you want to check out how to determine your size and shape foot when you're especially buying shoes online, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you in the next one.